As we head into the week, many of us are lucky enough not to have to worry about where Thanksgiving dinner will come from. And for others, it's not so easy. That's where the county-wide Feed the Need program comes in during the holiday season, and we're here to tell you all about it. Hello and welcome to this edition of Volusia Magazine. I'm Amber Patterson. Did you know that you can even pay your library fines by donating food? Not only that, but it's also time for colder temperatures, so horticulturalist Joe Sewards will bring us information on how we can protect landscaping and plants. We'll also bring you information to ease your holiday travel plans, and then we'll fill you in on an exciting celebration to kickstart the holiday season. Those segments, news, and more coming right up on Volusia Magazine. Stay tuned. Here's a novel way to pay off your library fines. Volusia County's 13 public library branches will be accepting food for fines through Saturday, November 29th. Patrons with late fees will receive a $1 reduction of overdue fines up to $25 for each undamaged, unexpired, boxed, or canned non-perishable food item they bring to the library. Donated food will be used to refill local food banks. The Food for Fines program is part of the 4th annual Feed the Need food drive spearheaded by Volusia County government. Volusia County employees are joining with other public employees from Volusia County Schools, Daytona State College, the Florida Department of Health, and cities to see which organization can collect the most food per full-time employee.
And it's just overwhelmingly successful. It's a great opportunity for our library patrons, A, to clear their records of any fines, but two, to help in the community, to help feed the hungry, and they've been overwhelmingly generous and provided, more non-perishable food items than their fines. We've had a lot of library patrons who simply donate food items even though they don't have any fines on their record. So it's been a very successful program for us.
Last year, the food drive collected more than 71,000 pounds, a record for food drives in Volusia County. The holiday travel season is upon us, and while Daytona Beach International Airport is just plain easy and convenient, travelers still need to allow additional time for airport ticketing and screening. The Transportation Security Administration, or TSA, urges holiday air travelers to bring plenty of patience to the airport and plan ahead to avoid unnecessary delays at the security checkpoints. During the heavy travel volume periods throughout Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the New Year holiday, passengers should be security ready when they arrive at the airport.
We recommend people basically come to the airport earlier than they otherwise would. Don't bring any wrapped packages because the TSA folks will probably unwrap those packages. And basically try to plan your trip as well in advance as you can. We're not expecting vast crowds, but it will be more crowded several days leading up to Thanksgiving and the days after Thanksgiving, but not Thanksgiving Day itself.
Passengers approaching security checkpoints should have their travel documents, tickets, boarding passes, and picture IDs, and they should have them out and ready for inspection. Coats and jackets should be off, and all carry-on items, including laptop computers, should be ready for inspection prior to reaching the security checkpoints. Some additional tips include packing fragile items in a carry-on bag in order to minimize the risk of damage or loss. Identification tags in and on all baggage, including laptops. And finally, the bags should be unlocked. If TSA security officers need to open a locked bag for inspection, they may have to break the lock. TSA-approved locks have a locking system that enables security officers to open and relock your bag. Steve Cook, Business Development Director for Daytona Beach International Airport, said travelers can save a lot of time by traveling to and from the county's airport in Daytona Beach.
It'll be a great experience for all if you decide to use Daytona Beach International Airport because it's a great airport. And when we say it's just plain easy, it's the truth, and people know that, and our traffic has been improving because of that.
For more information, you can visit flydaytonafirst.com. For the 4th year in a row, residents and visitors to Volusia County can kickstart the holiday season at Light Up Volusia Nights. The family-friendly festive holiday lighting is November 29th at the Ocean Center in Daytona Beach. The event starts at 5 p.m. with entertainment including performances by local musical groups, kids' activities, arts, and crafts. And of course, Santa and Mrs. Claus will be there. And just after 7, the area dignitaries will flip the light switch for the ornate 40-foot holiday tree with beach-themed decor and Sandy the Seahorse, the official mascot of Light Up Volusia Nights. Angela Daniels, marketing director of the Ocean Center, said the event is the perfect start for the holiday season.
And there's going to be a special treat this year. Also, the city of Daytona Beach is presenting fireworks from the pier. So we're adding an event this year, so please come out and join us.
This is a free community event, and for more information, you can call the Ocean Center at 386-254-4500. Light Up Volusia Nights will be 5 to 9 p.m. November 30th at the Ocean Center in Daytona Beach.
Hello, I'm Joshua Wagner, Volusia County Council, District 2. Need some inexpensive family fun? The Volusia County's Marine Science Center is a great resource for learning about our local wildlife and native environment. And it's right here in Ponce Inlet. You can see many species of fish and turtles on display or explore marine life in field trips and lab activities. You'll see what it takes to rehabilitate sick or injured sea turtles and shorebirds. It takes more than cough medicine. Get up close and personal with a lionfish. Well, not too close. Or a pelican, or a horseshoe crab. We don't recommend playing horseshoes with these little guys. Or a hawk. You can even go on an expedition with an expert birding naturalist. For more information, visit marinesciencecenter.com.
Manatee season has started at Blue Spring State Park. The cooler temperatures bring hundreds of manatees and thousands of visitors. But as Here and Now reporter Joanne Magley explains, these endangered species need more support than ever.
In the summer, Blue Spring State Park in Orange City is a very popular swimming hole. But from November through March, the spring is closed to swimmers and becomes a winter refuge for our area manatees. They escape the cold winter waters of the St. Johns River for the warm, consistent 72-degree water in the spring.
This park is here to offer a unique view of the manatee. I encourage you to walk down the boardwalk in its entirety and take a peek, and you'll see something uniquely special. The spring itself is about 1/4 mile as far as the length. So there's a large area for the manatee to be at. So there's not just one viewing area. So that's why we want to encourage you to use the entire boardwalk as opposed to just segments, because you're more apt to see more manatee.
Jerry Garrett, park manager at Blue Spring, says you'll actually find more manatees as soon as it gets cold outside.
Usually, if you follow the weather, it takes a couple of very cold days, again, affecting the water temperature of St. John's, and when it gets in that 68-degree mark, that helps the manatee determine that they want to get out of the cold weather, or cold water rather, and go into the spring, and it gives them a place to relax and rejuvenate and be restored.
Manatees have no natural enemies, and it's believed they can live more than 60 years, but they are an endangered species, and now more than ever, they need your support. 2013 was the deadliest year ever for Florida manatees. 766 manatees died, 40 of those in Volusia County, from a variety of causes, making it the largest annual manatee die-off in Florida since record-keeping began. In 2014 through November, there were 325 killed, 29 in Volusia County. Manatee Watch, a local volunteer group, helps the county track where manatees are located or traveling within the county. volunteers are trained to record manatee information such as behavior, condition, and location. There are a number of ways to support manatees, from buying specialty license plates and even adopting a real manatee. Donations help to fund research and education. If you can't make it to Blue Spring Park to see the manatees in person, you can get an up-close look at these gentle giants by visiting the website savethemanatee.org. For Volusia Here and Now, I'm Joanne Magley.
For more information about the Manatee Watch program, you can call 386-736-5927. It's part of Volusia County's Environmental Management Division, and you can also visit VolusiaManatees.org. And to find out more about Blue Spring State Park, you can visit FloridaStateParks.org. Time to bundle up and head outside to join horticulturalist Joe Sewards for cold weather plant protection tips.
Hi, I'm Joe Sewards, and this is Horticulture Today. Today we're going to talk about cold protection in the landscape. A lot of folks have a variety of plants in their landscape, and most of them are well adapted to this climate. However, some of them might be tropical plants or exotic plants from climates that are typically warmer than it is in Volusia County, and some plants you just want to protect to preserve their size, to preserve some flowers through the winter, and that's what we're going to talk about today. If you look at this plant, obviously it made it through the most recent cold snap just fine. It's an evergreen plant, and it is showing no symptoms of cold damage because it was in a protected location. It didn't get as much sun, it was protected from wind, it was right next to the house where it got some heat coming off the house, so it's showing no symptoms of cold damage at all. Compare that to its identical twin on this side of the house. This plant is in a more exposed location. It gets a little bit more sun than the plant on the other side. It was exposed to morning sun when the temperatures were still cold, and it is showing symptoms of cold damage. Now that's not going to kill this plant, but it will slow its spring recovery, and it might slow its growth going into the spring and summer growing seasons. Let's talk about how to cover plants. One mistake that some people make is that they will cover things with plastic. While that can be done, it's important to understand that plastic has very little insulative properties, and if it gets really cold and the plastic touches the foliage of the plant, the foliage still might get damaged. So if you're going to cover with plastic, and in this case we have a piece of white plastic, which is fine, it's important to create a tent over the plant using tomato stakes or something that's going to keep the plastic off the foliage so that it won't damage the foliage if you get sub-freezing temperatures. The preferred thing to cover with is something like a bed sheet or a blanket or something, some type of cloth. It has to be a piece big enough to cover the entire plant and go all the way down to the ground. The reason being is you're trapping ground heat. At night, when the sun goes down, heat is radiated from the ground, and by covering plants, that's what you're trapping. Plants generate little to no heat themselves. So what you're doing is you're trapping radiant ground heat from the ground and keeping it a little bit warmer underneath the cover. So that's why it's important that the cover go all the way to the ground. The next morning, when the sun comes up, uncover your plants once temperatures are above freezing. The reason being, and this is especially true if it's plastic, it will heat up underneath the cover, and that might cause the plant to break dormancy. And once plants break dormancy, they have no cold hardiness whatsoever. For more information on cold protection or any other garden-related topic, feel free to call us at the University of Florida Volusia County Extension Office, or you can visit our website as well. The phone number is area code 386-822-5778, or you can go to volusia.org/extension.
Established by Congress in 1914, University of Florida IFAS Extension has been providing solutions for 100 years. We bring research-based information to individuals, businesses, and communities. As part of the land-grant university system, we have experts in every one of Florida's 67 counties. Our educational programs improve lives, build economies, and help protect the state's valuable natural resources. We're committed to providing reliable information that impacts the lives of every Floridian. As Florida continues to grow, UF-IFAS Extension will be there to provide practical solutions to Florida's most challenging problems. University of Florida IFAS Extension, solutions for the next 100 years.
Let's head into the studio to join our very own Community Information Director, Dave Byron, as he sits down with Dr. Bonnie Sorensen, Director of Volusia County's Health Department.
Well, thanks, Amber, and hi, everyone. While the national public health conversation these days is dominated by concerns over the deadly Ebola virus, somewhat getting lost in the discussion is the fact that it's flu season, a potentially deadly illness in and of itself that is far more likely to affect significantly more people across the United States. With that in mind, we have with us in the studio today Dr. Bonnie Sorensen. She's the director of the Volusia County Health Department, and we'll get an update on this year's flu season predictions. Dr. Sorensen, thanks for being with us. How are you doing today?
Thanks. It's nice to be here, David.
Dr. Sorensen, it's nice to have you. You know, our subject today is, it is flu season, but I got to ask you about Ebola. Of course, it's dominated the national news, rightly so. You and I were talking the other day about the fact that it's interesting that there's so much public health conversation about Ebola, and it's hard sometimes to get the conversation starting, and that's not the case with Ebola. What do you think overall this kind of public health conversation, what impact is this having, do you think?
Well, I think obviously there's been a lot of conversation about Ebola, and from a public health perspective, it's been very beneficial.
That's what I thought,
because
yeah.
there's a great deal of concern about Ebola, and as a result, a lot of our partners have been coming and wanting to talk about Ebola in particular, but more generally about our healthcare system.
Right.
How are the hospitals protecting their healthcare workers? How are our EMS, our ambulance workers going to protect themselves? How about the local doctors
Right.
who are in their own offices? What should they be doing and saying? And of course, our community. How do we protect our community? And how do we protect our community from a kind of a government perspective, but also from a private sector perspective? Our law enforcement
Right.
are involved, our fire rescue folks are all involved. So despite the fact that Ebola is a tragic situation, it's been very beneficial for the conversation across the nation to really strengthen our system of preparedness and protection.
Got a lot of people at the table, huh?
Mm-hmm,
And sometimes that's difficult to do. Hey, the reality of the situation, though, Dr. Sorensen, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reality of the Ebola situation, that it's pretty remote, the chance that someone would catch Ebola. It's basically a fluid sharing kind of illness, is it not?
Exactly. In the past, we've talked about more scary things because SARS or MERS or H1N1 were airborne. You could actually
Right.
catch it from being in the same room with a person. Whereas Ebola is not transmissible through the air.
Right.
Ebola, you really have to be exposed to bodily fluids,
Right.
blood and vomit and diarrhea, and that's not likely.
Right.
So it's a remote chance of being exposed to Ebola compared to being exposed to the flu.
We know from lots of experiences that no matter what the disaster is, you always learn something from disasters, and certainly there'll be lots of lessons learned, I think, from the health community and others about this Ebola threat. I mean, that I think is going to be a positive outcome of this.
That is a very positive outcome. In fact, the hospitals that are housing these patients have already done presentations about lessons learned so that all the hospitals in the country can learn from it.
Right.
And of course, CDC's been holding national conference calls
Right.
with hospitals, with EMS providers, with public health, all trying to learn from these lessons and also kind of reacquaint ourselves with the necessary protective equipment and training and education that's needed constantly for our healthcare workers.
In reality, flu season probably poses a much greater threat to at least a greater number of people. With the conversation being so focused these days on Ebola, Do you as a public health professional have a concern that maybe getting lost in the dialogue is the fact that flu season, people need to prepare for that?
Well, actually, the conversation about Ebola has accelerated the discussion about flu, because we always end up saying Ebola is a tragedy, and yet it's not contagious through the air. Yes, there are certainly thousands of cases in West Africa, but we're in the United States, and we're worried about 35 or 45,000 people dying in this country from the flu every season. So we always end those Ebola conversations by saying, don't forget about the flu. You need to get vaccinated.
Seems like as we enter flu season every year, there's a concern about a different strain of flu or that sort of thing. You know, what are the predictions for this season's flu season?
Well, it's always difficult to predict flu, but what is, I think, important is that each year we've had new and improved vaccines.
That's good.
So this is the first year that we've had what's called a quadrivalent vaccine. In the past, there were 3 viruses in the vaccine. This year, they're actually mixing up components of 4 viruses, so it's a much better coverage. So what we can predict is that flu is coming. And we can predict that the new flu virus vaccine is going to be better than ever.
You've always told me, Dr. Sorensen, that the best piece of advice for anyone as we approach flu season is to get a flu shot, or the vaccine. Still the best piece of advice?
That is the best piece of advice. The youngsters under age 8 are being advised to take the nasal version because it's more effective. But there's a vaccine for any age group. For pregnant women who are particularly vulnerable, for the young folks, for the older folks, we have a new high-dose vaccine that's specially designed for folks who are over the age of 65 because it's more potent and therefore gives a better immune response. So there's almost something for everyone these days.
You know, you hear those people, and very smart people, quite frankly, that say that they're not going to get a flu shot or a flu vaccine because they can get the flu from getting the vaccine. And you've always told me, not the case.
No, you can't get flu from the flu vaccine because the vaccine is made of dead particles. But what you do get in response to a vaccine is an immune response to that vaccine. That's the purpose of the vaccine, to boost your immune system. So if you feel sore, you get a little redness, you feel achy, you even get a little mild fever, that actually is your immune system responding to that vaccine, and that's a good sign that you're responding very well to the vaccine. It may feel like the flu, but it's not the flu.
Hey, how about, are there categories of people, Dr. Sorensen, where the flu vaccine might not be a good idea?
Certainly people who are allergic to eggs need to be wary of taking a flu vaccine, although now there's an egg-free vaccine as well, but it has to be special ordered. Folks who, the egg allergy is the worst. Folks who are immune compromised may not want to take the nasal version because it is a live virus as opposed to the shot that's a dead virus. But other than that, the vaccine is being recommended for everyone age 6 months and older, all the way up until the end of life.
What categories of people are the most vulnerable to getting the flu, Dr. Sorensen?
All of us can get the flu. The folks that are most vulnerable to complications, hospitalization, and potentially death are those who are under the age of 5 and those over the age of 65. Of course, anyone in between that has a medical condition that compromises their lungs or their heart, diabetics, and particularly pregnant women, we've noted in the past several years are very likely to become more ill with flu than a non-pregnant woman. So very important for all those folks to have a vaccine.
All right, so I had my vaccine. What other precautions, good habits should I undertake to minimize the chance of getting the flu?
Well, since we know the flu is transmitted through the air, if you're sick, potentially with the flu or any other virus, you should stay home.
Stay home.
And not expose all your coworkers and everybody in the classroom. But while you're out in the classroom or in other places, certainly washing hands is the most important because the virus, it lands on surfaces. When you touch those surfaces and then touch your eye or eat something without washing your hands, you're basically infecting yourself. So meticulous hand washing at this time of year. Try to stay away from crowds if you can during the holidays, at least sick crowds.
There you go. Hey, for those folks out there, Dr. Sorensen, that perhaps would like to get some more information and so forth, how do people educate themselves on the flu season?
Well, certainly we have a website, volusiahealth.com, that has all the information about our locations and services, but cdc.gov is another excellent place. You can always find information about lots of different infections.
Vaccine, is it on the market now? Is it, I know last year there was a little concern about supplies running out. Any concern
the
there?
flu vaccine is plentiful. There's going to be over 150 million doses in the United States this year. The timing of when the vaccine's available is always an issue. The newer quadrivalent, the higher density vaccine is a little more difficult to manufacture, so it's been a little slow coming. But there's vaccine available in multiple places in our community, so it's not too late. We're sort of still seeing flu increase. We're not at the peak. It's probably going to be after the holidays.
Right.
So any time now is the time to get a vaccine.
Well, we'll let that be the last word. Thank you very much for sharing the information with us today.
Thanks, Dave.
Our guest today, Dr. Bonnie Sorensen, Director of the Volusia County Health Department. And with that, Amber, we'll go back to you.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you for watching Volusia Magazine. As always, if you have any questions about the show, you can feel free to give us a call at any of the numbers you see listed here, or you can log on to volusia.org and click on the News tab at the top of the screen to find us. Incidentally, you can find the County Council's meeting calendar there too. You can use volusia.org to find out about meeting dates, workshops, topics of interest, activities, and how you can become involved. And we hope you won't forget to listen to Volusia Today. That's Volusia County Government's weekly public radio broadcast. Volusia Today airs every Tuesday and Sunday mornings on the local radio stations you see on your screen. For Volusia Magazine, I'm Amber Patterson, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.